Hello. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Calling EU. Hello. I've got two amazing guests. We've got Jacob Trossing, an absolutely amazing player. I have to say, so a name that I don't think gets thrown out enough in the EU scene at all, because you've rocked up into so many big events, placing at least top 16 in multiple ones, getting top eights and even wins, right? So the second I was just seeing this, I was like, oh, bro, this is what this whole show is all about. And of course, we've got Yorgos, the Greek god himself, coming back to just basically you're helping cover.
I
But
do
we
it
love
again.
you. We do it. We're back. I'll have you on every single time. But
I just answered the call.
yeah, I just ring you up, and you're like, "Yeah, I'll put my pants on. Let's go. Let's go." So, if this is the first time you've seen this, we bring in topics that these amazing EU players bring along, and then at the end we do a community topic. So, if you would like to throw a topic out for a later show, just comment below or just give me a message on Twitter, wherever, and then we'll bring it on to our guests. So, Jacob, though, your topic of today is how do you stay sharp for a 2-day event? So break it down to me. What does that mean?
Yes, so essentially it's very mentally taxing to travel and also play card games, right? And many events like All Callings, Pro Tours, and even World Premieres are even 3-day events. And you play your most difficult and most important games towards the end, right? When you are playing the good players in when you're going well.
Yeah.
And then you're also very tired. So I think it's very important as a tournament player to have methods and ideas how to stay sharp, right? Because I feel like I've seen a lot, and I've also done a lot of stupid mistakes in day twos, right? Where it's not an issue of your understanding of the game or the way you play. You're just exhausted and you make mistakes.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I would say though, I don't know how I don't know what I could actually chip into this because I don't I don't think I've ever day two'd ever.
Hey, I heard playing day one and then playing Battle also counts. Like I heard you
Yeah, okay.
Battle, right?
I guess that's only because I missed the whole calling and had plenty of time to recover. So yeah, but Yorgos, you've done plenty of this as well. But so I suppose really, for me, I think how I would cope with a day two event is just not when I finish the day, I'll be kind of just chilling as much as I can and meeting up with friends, having a few beers, and just trying to take my mind off the game. Because I've seen a lot of people then just pile into the hotel, into the reception room. Games are still being smashed and played and whatnot, to just refine and get their lines down or whatever. To me, I couldn't think of anything worse because I'm just I'm done. Like my head just goes bam, I'm out. Game's over. I want to hang out with some friends that haven't seen for ages. Still talk about Flesh and Blood, but I don't want to just keep slamming games. That's not how I would sort of cope and manage. But that's just me. But I'll probably be a few beers in and then just sort of wake up next day and go, right, let's just go. Let's just see what happens. Yorgos, what would you do for a day two?
I think one of the most important things that we keep bringing back, I think, with Flesh and Blood, it's how important it is to actually have a lot of experience with the deck or the format you're playing. I mean, if you that, there are a lot of things that should be on autopilot, and that really saves a lot of fatigue and mental points throughout all of the days. I mean, I've played a lot of Old Team, I've played a lot of Dromai that fatigues a lot of decks, and really having done the same thing a lot of times beforehand, actually being playing the hero for some months and constantly be playing armories with the hero to have the experience that all these late game sequencing versus Guardian, or all these weird matchups, that it's actually more automated rather than that you need to figure out on the exact spot how you need to handle that. I think that saves a lot of time. So actually preparing from home I think is a really important factor and having experience with your hero is a really important factor to give you more mental points throughout the whole event.
Yeah. All right, Jacob. What was your tips?
Well, first I agree with what Yorgos said. Like I was a Bravo main for the first 2 years I played, and actually looking back at it, I probably had a lot less mental fatigue. Even though the games were probably longer than some of the heroes I've played recently, like Sam, I just had so many games in all the matchups that like all the mental energy really went to like the really matchup specific stuff,
Yeah.
which said a lot. I'm also like pretty big on I think eating and drinking throughout the day are important. I've kind of subscribed to the Brody strat. I do one sandwich between each round and also try to drink between each round. And I have like a small ritual where it's like toilet, then eat and drink. So I make sure that I don't have to think about that. I get some food constantly throughout the day and water. So I think like having some personal rituals that you feel work is very important. I know some people don't eat throughout the entire day. Some stuff I have to maybe try are leveling it up for the second day, maybe switch to water for energy drinks so I have some more energy for the second day.
You have what? So if there's like a 7-day round, you're eating like 7 sandwiches or something. That's a lot of
Yeah, yeah.
sandwiches.
Well,
Oh God.
I don't know,
So,
like lunch is also a lot of food.
dude, you
The
look like
day
a very
before the
thin.
event,
Oh, go on.
the mini market money you spend the day before the event are the most important money you're ever
Yeah.
spending on a trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But I must have a lot of like internal reserves, like kicking about because I do get a bit hungry for sure, but like I don't have breakfast. I just kick in, big bottle of water, and maybe it's because I've got kids and I'm just like so used to just going like, this isn't just like a normal feeling. And then yeah, I'll get something to eat like I don't know, halfway. Gets about 1 o'clock. My body's going grumble, grumble. Time to eat. I'm like, all right, bam, eat something, and then I just go, all right, let's go. But I also here's a little thing I think is worth sort of considering. And just when I say I haven't made a day two, I didn't actually. I've just totally forgot that Nationals is a day two event with draft and everything. So that is a thing, and I have made multiple day two events for sure. But my point is, it's still the same. I still just go, nah, whatever. I think being not stressed is probably low key the most important thing for me. I think everyone's very different though, right? But does certain heroes also a sort of factor to play in this, right? Because I suppose in my head, if you're just going to play some aggro deck, right, you are just going, shuffle up, see what the first 7 turns brings me. And especially when you're doing, if it's an aggro meta and there's lots of aggro decks, what sort of decision points have you got apart from my number's got to be bigger than yours? And if it isn't, I guess, what can you do? But when you're playing something relatively newish, like Arachne Marionette, for example, he's coming out looking like he could be pretty strong, a very fun hero to play, and you might actually be wanting to play that hero. There's a lot of things you got to sort of get right, and there's a calling this weekend. How much time are you prepared? So is these things that are actually going to tax you more for day two because you're still kind of learning on the fly? Not like Bravo, like you, Jacob, 2 years of Bravo, like you, Yorgos, 2 years of Guardian, and me just like 3 years of Viscerai. Bro, there's only so much there's only so many things you got to do, so it is just a bit easier. But if I had to pick up, I don't know, Fang, I'll be like, I know a bit, but against Kasaya, I guess there's a few things I've never done this, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's also on the same note. I think it's pretty different compared to the constructed events and the
Yeah.
draft events and the limited events. So, personally, I don't like to play games the last few days. I mean, I never want to play games before a calling. I never want to play games before, the day before and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think that could be correct with constructed, because it's exactly as you said, that you probably have run a lot of things through and you have the experience. But with limited, most of the time, it feels that a last minute draft might actually help you too, because it feels like in limited that stuff get figured out like until the literal last minute. I mean, it could be my personal bad preparation for limited events, but I always feel like in limited events that even in the last minute, even between drafts, there is some new information that always pops out. So sometimes having being sharp and actually being actually familiar with the sequencing sometimes could be correct. So I don't blame the people that actually want to play games before callings and stuff.
No, yeah. I to be honest, I completely agree. With the drafting side of things, because I had two drafts the day. No, that's all I did. Two drafts the day before in Utrecht, and I was a little bit like, oh, okay, yeah. A few things, just a few, like you said, just a few things to just keep you sharp. And there's so many combinations when it comes to limited on how does this draft stuff sort of form out. I think that's probably not a bad shout. Jacob, is there in limited portions? What's your perspective?
Well, I don't know that well, it's hard. I think you can prep limited quite well also, but I also like really value the sharp. Like in Prague, I day two'd, and I decided, even though we could get access to boxes to draft, to not draft instead, and not even play the like a movable sealed side event, because like we did that on the Friday on the world premiere. You just grind the entire day, and then you were home at like 23, and then you had to eat dinner, and like you got to bed so late. So I decided to not draft, instead do a little bit of discussion and try to just get some sleep for day two. And I'm not actually that sad I did that. I think my draw takes went well, and it was rather my play and the tiredness that actually ended up being the issue. And maybe I would have taken less mental energy if I had some more games. I definitely had some issue. Like I played Arachne both drafts, and I think maybe if I had 3 or 4 more games Arachne before, I could have saved a lot of energy not thinking through the lines as much. But I think it's like a big trade-off, and I think it's hard. I know some people drafted and learned a lot that night, and I felt like, yeah, I know, for example, through his way to winning, Simon played like a head jab Sinra style deck. I think they drafted the day before, or maybe just winged up on the spot. I don't know, but I think there is definitely merit
Yeah.
to, especially in like world premiere style settings. Then it's to the extreme. But if I felt that way in world premiere, I don't think that I want to like draft the day before Pro Tour London just to get the last prep.
Yeah, I think it depends what the event is, right? Because I like the Prague world premiere event. To me, it's just it's the calling is it's promotion for the game.
Yeah.
Everyone's only got just have fun. Like that to me is just like, let's just wing it and have fun. Some dude's just gonna absolutely nail it, but I still think there's gonna be a point where someone would nail it and still just kind of get bombed in the draft. So you spent all that time. Who knows? But Pro Tour London, I mean, there's plenty of time between between when the set comes out to Pro Tour London that you should probably just get a little bit refined.
I also think there is an argument, especially in person, because it's very hard to get that level. Like when all the people in London can get really high level drafts. And this was something I felt in Amsterdam. We did some local drafts to prepare, but then the drafts in the Pro Tour were very different because people were so locked in on what the good cards are. You got like good reds, pick 1, 2, and 3, and then nothing for the rest of the draft. And it was very different from local drafts where you could maybe get some quite good red cards even late. So it really was a whole different experience, I felt.
Yeah.
So getting like really high level draft pods, like you can do that before also, and it's ideal, but it's a lot easier during like if you are all traveling to the same event.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a really interesting byproduct of Flesh and Blood of not having an online client. The fact that, most of the time I feel like whenever I play draft in these high stakes, like in Amsterdam, in, Lyon and stuff, that everyone has a completely different aspect. I felt the same thing like in every single, high stakes draft, that after the first few picks, you have no idea how
Yeah.
the rest of the people are going to prioritize cards. And that's a really interesting aspect of drafting in Flesh and Blood.
Yeah, yeah. It. If you haven't checked it out, I think it could be episode 2 with Alex Kitsu. That him and his team really do break down about how they prepare for draft and stuff, and they feel like they're way above the curve of everyone because they just found some stuff out. But I don't. You gotta just check that episode out to see what you think. But yeah, I suppose my analogy of this is that it's like playing when you go to your local draft. It's like playing League of Legends with your mates, and then when you watch a team event of League of Legends and you go, they do nothing what anyone does. Like this is just not the same game whatsoever. So yeah, watching pro drafting, it kind of is useful, but when you go to your local events, bro, they're not. No one's doing what they're doing. Do you know what I mean? It's not even the same game. But yeah, basically, just to get back on the topic, I suppose, really, I'm a guy that chills. Yorgos, you're a guy that sort of chills at the end of day one, ready for day two.
Yeah. Most of the time I chill. I mean, unless there is a top 8 the next day. I mean, unless it's a 3-day event.
I
But that's very
love that.
specific. That's very specific. Yeah, I think I most of the time prefer to chill as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I do love the your mate's mate dot is in top 8. Everyone piles into the room, and it's just yeah, it is just full on. Jacob, what are you? What sort of person are you day two? Are you playing more games or are you chilling?
Definitely chiller. But I also have gotten stuck into like the plus EV trap sometimes. Like in Warsaw, after day one, I went to like it was 7 round CC, and then I played 4 round CC side event to get the promo. And I was gonna drop off the 1 round, but then you keep winning, and it's so good. Like
Yeah.
Stealing.
yeah. So, but I've really started to try and think about this, and it's also a very good time to actually catch up and talk to some people. It's
Yeah.
very hectic, especially in the limited events. There's so little time between rounds.
Yeah.
Like Georgios, I barely got to say hi to you in Prague because like it's so high tempo. So I think it's very nice to also like a big part of playing and traveling is to get to meet the people. So I think it's a great opportunity to actually have some time and spend with your friends
Yeah.
on the evenings.
Yeah, I think to be honest, overall, that is what I personally think the best part of the whole day is. The whole thing is about is just meeting up with some mates, new friends, just chilling with the community, having a beer and getting some food. That's what it's all about. Now, Yorgos, your topic. How
So
do new heroes bring up old heroes? Okay, so break it down.
So pretty much what I wanted to discuss was that we've seen a lot of times that some new heroes come out that have a new card pool, and the meta game shifts a lot around them, and suddenly there are some picks, some heroes that earlier felt like they were a completely meme.
Yeah,
Example, Riptide, for instance,
Yeah.
in the previous meta. But right now, simply because of the new heroes and the new aspect they bring to the meta game and how they warp the meta game sometimes around them, that these heroes actually feel pretty good. And again, I think I want to bring the example of Riptide currently, that, if Syndra, for instance, is a top tier aggro deck and assassins are the way, to get over this, Riptide is in an amazing spot,
Yeah.
and he got literally 0 new cards. And I think that will be really interesting moving forward. Like, it's really important to keep tabs on heroes that currently are not so relevant in the meta game, but you feel like that the power level is there, that you
Okay.
feel like they're just slightly below the curve of everyone else.
Okay. So, I mean, there's been plenty of examples of this in many, many ways, from heavy hitters bringing out a playstyle that Justrinthia just took full advantage of. So it doesn't have to necessarily be certain matchups bring up old heroes. It could be just new cards. The card pool has just changed enough to bring up an old hero. And I'd say old heroes really is it's anyone in the old set, I guess. But the original 8 heroes from Arcane Rising to Welcome to Wraith, soon we'll see Viserai, one of them, actually make it.
Yeah,
soon. But even then, it's interesting how that works, and a bit of me makes me sort of think, I wonder, for example, like Bravo, how can you ever make Bravo slightly relevant, right? And it almost just feels like, I wonder if they deliberately make a hero, and like, for example, deliberately make a hero very strong, like Zen, I don't know, like a Zen, right? And then deliberately give Bravo a tool that is just like, dude, I don't know, we just made a card to make him do so well against that guy. That's a way of doing it. So instead of just going, well, Bravo just have some cool new cards, I guess. But he got given this card that goes, I don't know, create a seismic surge token and Zen states destroyed or whatever. And you go, whoa, what? Like, that's very specific. And he's very good. Oh, here we go. I don't know. Jacob, what's your thoughts on how on this topic?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It's like kind of twofold, as you said. One is like maybe not exclusively new heroes. It's like in general meta game shifts, right? And the second part is card pool. I think one very good example of metagame shifts, which did not include new heroes, is the LL of Dromai from PTLA. I know that the Italian team played Great Axe Bolton in Warsaw and performed
I do
very
remember
well.
that. Yeah.
And like that was not something that was you could play Great Axe Dory before with like dominate switch plan for Dromai. I don't want to pick you on that, but I think that the Great Axe Bolting deck is like a great example. He didn't get that much new. I don't know how many of the heavy hitters card you actually played in that deck, but it was a very nice way to attack the current meta that was present in Warsaw.
Yeah.
And I think like it's kind of there are usually some hidden angles that people don't realize for most meta games. But I also think it's like you need a pretty refined meta game. I think if you actually were to bring Riptide to week 1 RTNs, I think it will be quite rough because there will be so many people who are still playing a bunch of random stuff. You play into like someone brought Victor because he's also good into Sinrand and you just get stomped. So I think like when you're picking the like less powerful heroes who have a metagame angle, you kind of need the meta to be a bit more developed. But I think that it's very good to know the strength of all the heroes because all of a sudden, like for example, in Amsterdam, Usuri had a good spot to actually compete. But not a lot of people knew Usuri's matchup spread and that the new matchup, at least supposedly, was good. So no, like she wasn't really a top consideration.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. So, like, I'm trying to think really because this topic can sort of weave into so many different ways. Because I suppose what a lot of people want to sort of do is go, look, my favorite heroes from the past doesn't get any love, and I do think that like there is ways new heroes can really prop up old heroes, and I think Rosetta was an amazing point for Viserai and even Vincent, that they just created all these cards for Florian and Aurora, and they kind of work. I thought it was very clever on how they just went, look, it's draft, baby. They kind of do their stuff in draft, knowing full well they're like, oh my god, this. Have you seen this for these guys? That's pretty crazy. I liked that approach on how they did that. And then when you look at this set, you kind of look at Fang and think, well, surely he's got to do some really fun stuff for Kasai, right? Right?
Hey, you got one yellow, right?
Yeah.
One playable yellow.
I don't know. There's an old I think there's a topic you did as well, Yorgos. So like literally the last episode about our class is destined to just be doomed. So maybe, yeah, like technically, I think heroes can get stronger. Like Kasai has gotten better, right? With Fang being around, she has gotten better, but better can also be 0.1%, which is not relevant. But yeah, so there is those things to consider. Is there anything else, Yorgos, that you wanted to sort of dive into this before we move over to the next topic?
No, I think we covered it good enough. No, I
Yeah.
think
Okay.
we're good.
Okay. Cool. Well, last one brought over by our awesome patron, Shred, an assassin player, as you could probably see by this topic. Does body language inform your decisions? Now, that's the most warrior and assassin topic I've ever seen. But okay, even if you don't, I'm gonna attack you for whatever, and then or just when someone draws their hand and you just watch and go, all right. Like, they don't have to say anything. They just shoulder slunk, hand in face, and you go, right. This doesn't look good. Should I just send it? Like, should I send it? What's your like? Does the player's body language inform your decisions, Jacob? Whenever you sat across someone and they've done something that made you go, oh, okay, no, I'm going to change it up a little bit now.
Definitely. I think there is definitely a clear edge here to gain, of course. Like, purely theoretically, it shouldn't impact your choice. Like, the best line should still be the best line.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to exploit them by reading them, you can, of course, just get scammed by them faking you out. But I do think, like, it's very hard to actually conceal all your tells, and especially in this game, where, like, maybe if you play poker, you actually practice this a lot, but I think a lot of people don't even think about this. And also, stuff like tanking is usually pretty good tells. Like, if I block like 3 on your attack that comes in for 4 as Visra, and you start to think a lot before going to damage, you probably have succumbed, right? And you are considering if you're using it.
Yeah. Basically, I've told everyone, when I draw my hand up, when you see me put my hand on my head to go, you basically, I'm just telling you I've got Become the Art Knight in my hand.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of cards like that takes a lot. But I also think there's like a real edge to gain here. I think I missed this in Calling Prague. I have a stream game where my opponent flips into Trapdoor and we're playing Arachne Mirror, and he banishes a card. And I have Tarantula Toxin in my hand. So I go Dagger, and he said 9. So I can pump it to 9 and kill him, but then I lose it to a trap.
Right.
But if I pump it to 7 and wait for him to play the trap, it's the Stealth Dagger, so I can get +3 and -3.
Right.
So I win if he plays the trap.
Right.
So I think here I could probably have looked more at his body language to see, does he have a trap or not? And in hindsight, he, like, even when I played my first 2 attack reactions, he didn't even look at the card. So probably it wasn't a trap, but I was like, he banished a card, so of course it's a trap. I'll hold the Tarantula Toxin and wait to minus the trap and get him. And they just go, okay, take 7. I was like, no. I win if I go for but I tried to big brain and I got big brain instead by the banish. So I think there I like lost the game because I didn't take that into consideration. And I also think he won the game because he played well and actually thought about what to banish. I think he even asked like, what's the time when looking through his deck. I thought maybe he has 2 traps and considering which one to banish.
Yeah. Or you could just do the no body language and do what we call the Kale McCreeve, where he is going to CNC you, and he literally just goes, I'm going to pummel you.
Yeah.
And you go, oh. What's your boss? Has any body language helped you? Because I've seen you play. You're not this. You're like this. You literally go. Oh god! It's like every hand is made of stinging nettles, and you're like, "Oh, not this! Who put these stupid cards in my deck?"
So, I mean, everyone has heard at least once this legendary story of someone like passing priority on reactions and waiting for the response for the opponent and doing the blind read and completely blowing the opponent out. So I think everyone has listened to the story, and I think that's a metagame thing that uh, I think a lot of people actually do exactly what Jacob said, that a lot of people either have practiced that, I mean, in a more competitive level, or are aware of it, are aware to attempt not to give tells, not to have tells, to try. I mean, when you're playing a deck that has a lot of attack reactions and or defense reactions, sometimes you always take time on the attack reaction step or in the defense reaction step in order to not give a tell to the opponent that when you actually do have the reaction to do that. So what I personally do on that matter is that I honestly never try to read the opponent. I mean, I never attempt to like do this next level that they have this, so I do that, and etc. because of the way they move. So I always try to go for the best line, regardless of the cards in the opponent's, regardless of the body language I feel like the opponent is having. And I know that's pretty bad because, like, example, an Uzuri player could maybe destroy, it's the easiest people to read. I mean, the way I play the game, it's probably the easiest way to do this next level sometimes.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, sometimes I think it's good to attempt to trick the opponent because it's sometimes just 3 points. I mean, if you do not take an inefficient line, if you do not take a silly line simply to try to bluff the opponent, but you do take a line that's efficient and you can add an added layer of maybe a half the reaction, sometimes you get 3 points for that. I mean, sometimes, because I've been playing new. I mean, since Mistvale came out, I've been playing new, and the whole thing of having a sigil in hand and attacking with a stealth card and having two cards in hand, and your cards are literally sink below sigil, so you literally have nothing. So actually trying to make it look like that you probably do have something sometimes gives you 3 points.
Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of block 7, like in attacks that are attacking for 1 and I have a sigil in hand.
Yeah. Because you're probably sitting there like that, like you sure? Yeah. All right, sigil. Yeah, and you're like, what? It's like almost just like whatever you're doing is useless.
Maybe Jacob has a story to tell about that. I think I remember we played a game with in Warsaw with that. I think we had like a reaction in Arsenal. I mean, but I think honestly, I think from a competitive point, I don't think you should give it too much thought because you simply don't know how experienced the opponent player is at poker, at body language reads. So you honestly cannot know if the opponent is actually bluffing you or if he's,
Mm.
simply honest because they haven't put themselves in that situation a lot, so they can, suppress the whole body language and tics and stuff.
Yeah, it also depends what class you're playing, right? Realistically, this is like the body. If you're playing a very reaction heavy class like assassin and warriors, more so probably assassin. I think this is a very assassin thing to maybe have something, but a bit of me, I agree, is almost just like it's almost just like you're almost like right. It doesn't really matter how you are. I don't know what you've got, so I've just got to sort of make a very good best judged decision on what's going to happen. It doesn't matter how much I go and I still block for 6, and then you probably go over by like it or whatever. I block for 6 or block for 7. If you got a sigil, you got me, bro. You couldn't have been like no matter what. It doesn't actually matter. Although I did actually get someone. This was many years ago. Looked at my hand and went, oh, all right, gloom for 3. And then they go, what was that it? And I'm like, Viscerai hands, bro. Is okay. No blocks. I'm like, all right. creepers read the runes. But at the same time, if I think about it, I'm almost just like, yeah, no pro player will ever just sit there and go, you got to read the runes. It doesn't. Yeah.
On the same note, though, something I want to point out is that I also think a lot of times is a bait for the player attempting to do that, because and Nu is a great example, because a lot of games with Nu go to fatigue. So sometimes it's way more important to save the 30 seconds per turn rather than attempt to set up a bluff. So at some point they will know. I mean, if you never take time in reactions, they will know that you have a reaction. So what? I mean, if Bones is attacking for 11, what does it matter if you know I have reactions? I mean, and a lot of time it's the same thing. I mean, I'm pitching a blue, I'm playing a surgical, I have 2 cards in hand. What could I have? I obviously have his. Who cares? I mean, okay, you block 7. Okay, Codex. You still don't play the game. Sometimes it doesn't matter. So I need this sequencing to be fast. So I think a lot of players sometimes go to time because they try to overplay something. So it's really important to know when you do have the luxury of actually taking your time to maybe bluff and set up things, compared to if you do have the time to actually finish a game.
Yeah. Jacob, anything? What's this story that Yorgos? I want to know this story.
I don't remember. I know if we played in day 1 of Warsaw, I play Hatchet Dory into his New Horizons Australia. But all I remember, no, I don't remember from that game. What do you remember?
I mean, you had an Iron Song reprise in Arsenal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you had an Iron Song reprise in Arsenal for like 4 turns, and I was like at 2.
Yeah.
And I was double blocking. I was double blocking the Hatchet for every single turn. And Jacob at some point goes in the literal last turn before I actually managed to kill him. So he attacks with Hatchets to floating, and I block like 5. And Jacob is like, why overblock the Hatchet? Why did you want to overblock the Hatchet, bro?
It's come on. It's only 2.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I think that was your only lost game. I think you did amazing in Warsaw, though. By the way, I think that was your only loss, right? If I
Yeah,
remember.
in Swiss, that was my only loss.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also think like the entire bluffing part is very important with Dory. I played her quite defensively, I think, even maybe at the start of the event. But as I played more and more, I realized like just the threat, like arsenaling even a D-react is so much better than playing it, because the threat of getting a triple swing means that they often just let your first hatchet for 2. Like they don't bother giving you a 3 block on the 2 block to prevent 3 damage later, because you might have the react. And I felt like that was a deck where you really gained a lot from playing large hands by bluffing. Maybe less body language, but more like, I think that's also a big difference here. There's like gameplay bluffing where you take lines that represent a lot of different options, and then you try the body language. I think the body language thing is maybe more important to be aware of to not do, right? You don't want to have obvious tells and have like a plan, as Rory said, to think the same amount of time at each reaction step, so you have actually practiced that, because otherwise you will be giving up a lot of information, and actually plan out your turn before, like, okay, if they block here, I will play the attack reaction, or if they don't, I won't. So you don't, they block and you're
Yeah.
and then it's like super obvious you have it for another turn. If you don't, decide to not play it.
Yeah, I think as well, really, maybe like all this, to not overthink it too much about the body language stuff of being or whatever. But you could probably also tell when someone sits down on the table with you and they just go, right, yeah. Right, and you just sit there and go, this guy's not happy. This guy is not happy. Something's gone down. His mum says the cat's lost or something. He's not having a good time. And you just know a bit that you're probably just going to get a guy that might not want to... He's just going to get stressed out playing this game. And you don't want to stress him out, obviously. But there's an element of where you're just going to see maybe not the best lines are going to be taken because this guy's body language is tired. whatever. But when you see a guy come down and go, hiya, you're right. Yeah, very good. Yeah, you're like, okay, this guy's ready to kill, right? He is not going to be giving up anything. So, right, that's that sort of presenting at the very beginning. This is the sort of game you're going to come up against. That's what those sort of body languages. To me, you can just tell someone's here to kick my butt, and the other guy, he's dropped his sandwich on the way here.
But I also think there it's important to not read too much, because then maybe you get hit with the freaking creepy free the room.
The guy,
creepy free the room.
Yeah, he just goes, I pretended to look like I was like, God, you got me, bro. But it doesn't change. You're right. It doesn't change the fact that this game has a hell of a lot of math. Basically, it doesn't make too much of a difference. Your lines, the best lines are the best lines. You know, at the end of the day, numbers go big, and if they've got that turn, yeah, fair enough. You should know what to do when it's a Bonds of Agony turn. Sometimes you just, cool, doesn't really matter. I gotta take this, or no matter how I block it, I'm just gonna get duffed. The other guy could be going, it doesn't matter. So, yeah, that's fair. Anything on this before we move on and end this whole episode, Yorgos?
No, I think play fast. I think it's more important than try to bluff. Play fast.
Play fast. Yeah, that is a fair comment. That is a fair comment. Right, Jacob, Yorgos, thank you so much for your time for this really, really cool episode. And thank you everyone for watching this as well. Again, if there's any sort of topics you want to bring for future episodes, just comment below and our amazing EU players will discuss it going forward. But again, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.